the monster with the crown. In the rolling hills of Algrit, where the sun kissed the earth with its golden warmth, a young boy named Connor Ashton toiled on his father's farm. Just on the other side of the hills beyond the kingdom walls, days melted into seasons, each dawn heralding the demands of livestock and plowing. He was a quiet, introspective child, finding solace in the whispered stories of the elders in the village, tales of heroic warriors and infamous kings. But these stories painted a stark contrast against the daily struggles of ordinary folk, leaving Connor torn between reverence for power and deep-seated resentment for those who abused it. When Connor turned 16, the kingdom was swept by the call of arms. King Alaric, a man both feared and revered, raised an army to quell a growing rebellion. Connor, driven by dreams of honor and glory, left the fields behind and joined the ranks of the king's soldiers. The camaraderie of the barracks offered him a sense of belonging, yet as the months turned into years, he witnessed horrific acts committed against those too weak to defend themselves. Villagers pillaged under the guise of protecting the realm. It was here, amidst the clanking swords and cries of battle, that Connor forged a bond with a brotherhood known as the Sentinels, a clandestine group of warriors dedicated to defending the oppressed. They shared dark secrets, the king's treachery, the wealth hoarded in his lavish castle while peasants starved, and the harsh reality that shadows loomed over the kingdom. One fateful night, as Connor ventured beyond the walls under the guise of an ordinary soldier, he encountered a flock of villagers, their faces gaunt and desperate, whispering of their plights. Feeling a rush of empathy, he took it upon himself to listen and offer guidance. But word of his clandestine conversations reached the king's ears. Loyalists turned informant, and soon after, a bounty was placed on Connor Ashton's head. Fleeing under the cloak of darkness, Connor risked everything to escape the kingdom. With whispered warnings and hasty goodbyes, he slipped into the shadowy woods, ignited by the fire of rebellion. Years passed in hiding as he wandered from village to village, learning the language of the oppressed and uniting them against the crown. His resolve steeled, he emerged as a leader, building a coalition of tribes led by those who had suffered under the king's rule. Time marched on, and Connor's adventures led him to the Heart Algrit, now a fragmented land where drought and despair painted the horizon. He reclaimed his father's land not as a simple farmer, but as a chieftain, a beacon of hope against the tyranny of King Alaric. Eventually, Connor sired a son, a bright-eyed boy named Jareth, who mirrored his father's unyielding spirit. As Connor watched Jareth grow, he weighed the burden of legacy heavy on his shoulders. The throne he had reclaimed offered him power, but it was a power meant to be shared. He knew his son would need allies to overthrow the king. At 17, Jareth was passionate and restless, his dreams laced with visions of sweeping change. "Father," Jareth spoke one evening, his voice burning with urgency as they sat on the edge of a cliff overlooking the valley below. "When do we strike? The people are suffering. We must act swiftly." Connor met his son's gaze, seeing both the fire of ambition and the innocence of youth. "We strike when the time is right, Jareth. We build our strength, not in numbers alone, but in unity of purpose." Days turned into weeks, and whispers of a growing rebellion swirled across the winds, reaching the far corners of the kingdom. The Sentinels, now resilient and determined, planned a convergence of all tribes, strategizing their uprising against the king. As the moon waxed full, Connor gathered his followers, prepared to unveil a strategy that would finally challenge King Alaric's tyranny. But as fate would weave its strings, spies loyal to the king infiltrated the tribe's ranks. News of Connor's plans slipped through the cracks of loyalty, and on the eve of battle, the king's forces advanced rapidly to quash the rising rebellion. "Father, we must escape," Jareth urged, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and defiance. "No," Connor asserted, his voice steady yet somber. "You must lead in my stead. Rally the tribes and fight. I will buy you time." A pang of dread echoed through Connor's chest, but he pushed it aside, cloaked in determination. The air grew thick as the sun dipped below the horizon, and the echoes of warriors rose in defiance. Connor faced the approaching soldiers, his heart a fortress amidst the chaos. As arrows rained from the sky and swords clashed, Connor fought valiantly, carving paths through the foes, stealing his son's fate with every swing of his weapon. The battle raged into the darkness of the night, but Connor's legacy was not ignited in mere swordplay. It was rooted in the hearts he had inspired. When dawn broke, whispers of the fallen hero spread across the lands. Connor may have fallen in battle, but his mission lived on in Jareth, and the people united against the king. The tribes banded together, marching with purpose and conviction across the meadows of El Algrit, driven by the promise of justice and the shadow of a crown that had threatened them for far too long. The sun rose high, illuminating the path of rebellion, where the blood of the fallen mingled with the soil that yearned for the touch of freedom. The candles of hope flickered with each heart that beat for Connor Ashton, the boy who had once gazed upon a future of dreams, now woven into the very fabric of history.